Welcome to the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. I'm Sean Aylmer. If you're like me, you've probably heard stories about NFTs, non-fungible tokens, and not really understood what's going on. A lot of those stories have been reported as extravagant novelties, like Twitter founder Jack Dorsey selling his first ever tweet as an NFT for almost $3 million. Along the same lines, digital art is being sold by auction house Christie's, and original versions of songs and videos are also being purchased as NFTs. Put simply, a non-fungible token is a unique digital token, usually part of the Ethereum cryptocurrency blockchain. The important part is that it's unique, meaning the NFT of a digital artwork, a video, a song or similar can be verified as the original. It all sounds very high-tech, but an Australian company is taking it mainstream, and they've just raised $82 million to help do it. Robbie Ferguson is the co-founder of Immutable, and is my guest this morning. Robbie, welcome to Fear and Greed.
Thanks, Sean. It's great to be here.
One of the great things about my job, Robbie, is that I get to talk to experts about things which I know very little about. How did I go in my explanation of what an NFT is?
I think very accurate, actually. So I think the important thing to remember about NFTs is that right now, although all the news is centered on a few use cases of it, that's just what they are, use cases. And ultimately, all an NFT is a new technology which allows us to enable people to own digital stuff. And that stuff could be anything from Jack Dorsey's tweet to a piece of digital art to an item inside a video game or even to a financial asset. So the implications are very broad, and we're just tapping the surface of what NFTs will encapsulate.
Okay, so we talk about Jack Dorsey's tweet because of the cost of it. Why should normal people care about NFTs? At the moment, we're talking about very specific things, but is the use case potentially far greater?
Yeah, I would answer, why should normal people care about Bitcoin or about Ethereum? And the answer I would give to that is because it's likely going to be the back end of the financial institutions that you use on a daily basis in a decade. And we're seeing these types of cryptocurrencies and decentralized applications take over centralized finance everywhere. We're seeing, new financial technology companies use DeFi as part of their backend. We've seen an insane uptake on adoption over the past year, and we're seeing that same trend now apply to NFTs, except the use cases are slightly different. So the fundamental value proposition of blockchain is the ability for people to own things uniquely. Enforced almost, the example I like to use is physics, because if I send you $10 on a bank account, there's nothing to prove that I no longer have that $10. It's just a line in a database somewhere enforced by that bank. But if I give you, say, a physical $10 note or a physical item worth $10, the rules of physics enforce that I no longer own that because only one instance of that can exist in the world. It's literally atoms.
Yep.
Now we can do that same stuff with digital assets. We saw it with Bitcoin and Ethereum for fungible stuff, so currencies, and NFTs now allow us to do that for any unique digital object. And the implications are huge. It's come out in the form of art, which is awesome and sexy, and people are getting really excited about the huge volumes. But I actually think some of the mainstream use cases that are going to come out are the ownership of in-game items in video games, the ownership of unique financial assets. There's a huge topology of financial assets that aren't fungible in nature at all, whether they are insurance contracts, which insure a unique set of circumstances, whether it is a term deposit, which is distinguished from other term deposits based on its yield rate and the nature of the underlying asset being held. All of these assets can now be held in a unique manner with the same benefits that blockchain has brought to fungible currencies.
Okay, so there's a few things there. I'm going to take a step back, then I'm going to come to the financial example because I think that's really interesting. The way I'm thinking about it, it's kind of like a grandmaster painting or something like that, or even a Monet or something like that, which someone owns the original, though there are lots of prints of it around the place, but someone actually owns it. And what we're talking here is that digital token. You own the original digital asset. What happens in terms of, do you own the rights to reproduce it? Do you own, so when I'm thinking of the Monet, I'm thinking of to reproduce a Monet, theoretically at least, you're supposed to ask for permission to do that.
Yep.
Is that the same in an NFT?
It's a great question. How I posture that is, if you buy, say, a rare piece of art, do you suddenly get the rights to reproducing that artwork, to distributing it to putting it on t-shirts?
No.
And the answer is, well, it depends, right? It depends on the particular arrangement of the IP. And so I think the same answer applies here, which is that's kind of the beautiful thing about NFTs is it doesn't actually rely on law or IP rights to enforce value. It's just you own the thing. But obviously different IP rights could be associated based on whatever contract you're organizing with the owner of that IP.
Okay. So if we bring this to the use case for everyday people like me, potentially then NFTs can come into their own where you're talking about fairly bespoke contracts, be they financial contracts, insurance contracts, that type of thing. Is that right?
Yeah. So I would say any financial instrument which is unique in nature, so you'd want to trade uniquely, should and will be encapsulated by NFTs at some point in time. And there are huge amounts of this. So as I said before, any insurance contract you have is generally going to be fairly unique. You're insuring maybe a particular property. You have a particular set of risk parameters based on the people procuring that insurance. And if you want to make that tradable, and that the world is leaning towards everything being tradable, whether that's at a consumer to consumer level or whether that's at a business to business level to enable, reinsurance and better forms of risk management and more competitive business models, we're going to see everything trend toward that. And suddenly we can take that, say, insurance contract, encapsulate it as an NFT and have it be traded with that value proposition.
So if we go down this path, what I can imagine is that NFTs become a much more efficient way of trading all sorts of instruments in the future.
Yeah, exactly. Efficient. And most importantly, they're exposed to all of the innovation that we're seeing in DeFi today. So it means that, let's say you have your insurance contract and it's worth some particular amount. You can then use it to be staked as collateral and gain a loan in a fungible currency that you could use more readily. Or you could use it in some other type of DeFi contract. And it's this instant interoperability with every kind of other decentralized financial institution built as an application. That's the true kind of power here.
Okay. Stay with me, Robbie. We'll be back in a minute. My guest this morning is Robbie Ferguson, co-founder of Immutable. So the surge in the market for NFTs has been quite incredible. I was reading some numbers and it's gone from being measured in the hundreds of millions of dollars to the billions of dollars, quarter on quarter. Why such growth, do you think?
So the majority of the growth in NFTs over the past year has been in collectibles and art. So really valuable financial assets where people are buying it with probably the expectation that they'll increase in value in the future. And this is how we've seen, literally NFT volumes go from, say, 20 million a month to hundreds of millions, in some cases, even billions, which is pretty insane. And then I think we're starting to see volumes pick up in gaming as well, which is quite exciting. And the startup quote here, and this is how we originally got into the business. This is why we originally took it up, is way back in 2017, we were looking at when an NFT first came out in the form of CryptoPunk, which obviously has made a name for itself over the past couple of months. And we thought this was the technology that would allow people to take items in video games, and people pay literally $100 billion per year to purchase items in video games, to consume content. They're not purchasing...
Robbie, why?
Because it's their identity. It's how they purchase entertainment. It's, why would you purchase a Red Sox jersey or, a cool piece of memorabilia? It allows them to connect with their friends. And this also includes, utility-based consumables, such as in Candy Crush buying gems that allow you to progress to the next stage. But importantly, what it's not is it's not buying the box DVD or, game disc that allows you to actually access the game. It's people spending on in-game content.
Yeah.
And of course, they're getting completely ripped off because they can't sell any of this. If you buy a skin in Fortnite, if you buy trading cards in Hearthstone, you don't have any ability to resell that ever. You have zero rights. And even marketplaces like Steam are incredibly controlled and incredibly restricted. And you really don't have any assurance that they won't just reprint a whole bunch of that item in the future and remove it to zero via inflation.
Yeah.
And so that entire market would be instantly replaced by a vastly superior model if it were done with NFTs, because now people would have the option to sell it. They could have guaranteed scarcity. So you could say, this Fortnite skin is only one of 10,000 to ever exist. And that's really radical in a digital context. We've literally never been able to do that before. And the final thing, and probably my favorite thing, is for the first time ever, we can have digital provenance. And the example I give here is the gloves Muhammad Ali used to knock out George Foreman in the Rumble of the Jungle. are worth far more than any other make and kind of that glove from that year. And the reason are, you can prove that he wore these gloves to knock out George Foreman. And for the first time ever, we can now apply that context and provenance to digital assets. So you could take the skin that Ninja, a famous streamer, uses to win a tournament in Fortnite, and he could auction that off in the moment and prove to everyone that that digital asset was used by him to have that particular experience, which is really, really cool.
In a sense, it's just an evolution, really, of what happens in the physical world, because it is a digital world now, and anyone under the age of 40 is far more digital than physical in many ways, and just how they consume things, how they live their lives, how they entertain themselves. So it's really just an evolution from physical to digital and owning those sorts of assets.
That's exactly it. At Immutable, our mission statement is to make digital worlds real. And the reason is, we think that people will self-actualize and live their lives in digital universes in the future. People will spend a huge ton of time in virtual reality and gaming. We're already seeing it. And it's important that those people have property rights that are just as strong as in the real world.
So you've raised $82 million. What are you going to do with the money? What's the plan for Immutable?
Yeah, the vast majority of it will be spent on hiring some people, to be honest. So we're doing a global expansion through a few main ways. Obviously, we have our internal content, Gods Unchained and Guild of Guardians, which we're really excited about, and we'll be bolstering those teams to help take them mainstream and hit millions of users. And we also have our protocol, so Immutable X, which is our scaling infrastructure, and we'll be building a engineering team that's significantly larger than the one we have today. And we'll also be building a global go-to-market team, so business development, success, integration.
So it's about gaming, and it's also about becoming a marketplace to some extent.
Yeah, we call ourselves a exchange protocol because we actually the protocol that powers marketplaces.
Yeah.
So we don't care about people coming to our website. What we're doing is allowing anyone to build a business based on NFTs. Whether you're a game and you just want to create it inside your game and allow people to trade in there, whether it's our upcoming integration with OpenSea, which is the largest NFT marketplace, which means anyone will be able to trade an asset on Immutable X via OpenSea. Our goal is to be this global liquidity and scaling layer behind these digital assets.
Yeah, so a facilitator as much as anything else.
Exactly.
Okay, so you're doing some very cutting edge things. How does Australia generally stack up against the rest of the world in this area?
Yeah, look, I actually think Australia's been punching above its weight in terms of crypto. So we have some really cool homegrown startups here. There's Kane, who founded Synthetics, which is now a decentralized organization that was, he's referred to as the father of DeFi farming. So he really basically popularized this idea of staking and farming and DeFi protocols, which is the ability to bootstrap the growth of a DeFi application by incentivizing users with tokens for being early participants or risk takers in that protocol. So that's been really cool. And then we're actually seeing a bunch of other startups get funding literally even today, whether they're building on different blockchains. So I think Australia is 100% punching above its weight. And with the popularization of NFTs, we're seeing a huge influx of demand to Immutable, whether it's people wanting to come and work in the blockchain industry or specifically on NFTs because of the applications they see to entertainment. It's been really awesome.
Robbie, this has been one of the best lessons I've had in months, possibly years. I have learnt so much.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to help, Sean. It's exciting stuff.
Thank you for talking to Fear and Greed.
Thank you.
That was Robbie Ferguson, co-founder of Immutable. This is the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. Join me every morning for the full Fear and Greed podcast with all the business news you need to know. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your day.